Happy Jupiter Day, Collective. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to be mostly off camera for this quick little video where I just want to incorporate a little bit of therapeutic horticulture, a little bit of Jupiterian wisdom, and some spring plant buying tips. I've got Smidge. You just saw her in the background. That's my cousin's dog. They're staying here this weekend, so I'm sitting, and she's also our little garden helper today. So, what I want to do is, in the spirit of Jupiter and expansion and optimism, and also potential, even where you might not otherwise see it, I want to incorporate a little tip here when it comes to things that you might find at the garden center and might pass judgment on. So, this here is a spring fever orange Iceland poppy, and it's a full sun perennial. I really love them, and just like most things, when you see them at the garden center, there were a lot of pretty blooms, and like it was looking like it was in its prime. And this was less than a week ago, but yesterday I went outside, and like it had only been like 48 hours since I last saw them and tended to them, and then they were like really wilty looking, like to the point to where you would think I had left them unattended in full blown sunlight for like a week. And so I have bought five total, two for me, and then these three I had set aside for my other cousin, who I will be visiting in a couple weeks to do some garden projects. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be in April. Gonna have some really fun before and afters for some little projects and plantings we're gonna do at their house in South Carolina. And so in the weeks leading up, I've been sort of planning and like plotting and um, acquiring little things here and there that I know I want to incorporate in some of their plantings. So as you might imagine, I find something that I love, and then I buy like a couple to set aside for them. So what that means is kind of being plant nanny to some of these other acquisitions that are waiting for their final home next month in April. So I've got to keep them looking good and keep their progress going. But for these, as you can see, I was thinking, well, if they're struggling this much now, how are they going to be ready for planting in the ground in April? And so the two that I had bought for myself, I thought, well, let me go ahead and put those in some nicer planters. And so when I gave them a good watering, when I took them out of their nursery pot, I immediately saw what the issue was. So I've done a short on a house plant that was root bound, and like I sort of gave a little sort of tidbit of things to look out for, primarily roots growing out of the bottom. But sometimes, like depending on the plant, it's not going to be obvious when something needs to go to a different pot. So let's say that you've gone to the nursery and like you're in a similar situation, and you don't really know why these things that are in their standard pots like just don't seem to be taking in the water the way that they should, even when you give them a good dousing. So first tip is, when you spot that, water thoroughly, like soak it, but then do what I did overnight last night. And I took like a tray. I mean, it can be like any kind of tray from your kitchen, or like some shallow like pan or something, and put it in water, and then set all of them like just to sit in there, like out of the direct sun. And that will get them to the next day. And in fact, it was very effective. Like a lot of this foliage perked right up. Um, it was really wilty and flat and sad. And so now I'm like, okay, they'll be fine. And when I repotted the other two from the same batch, like I said, I saw what the issue was. So I was like, well, I just need to get them to the next day, today, for their repotting. And that way I figured I could show you guys maybe something that you can implement yourself. So in this case, these aren't where they're going to end up, right? Like these aren't their final place. Because like I said, I'm going to bring these to my cousin's house next month, but they're not going to be able to sustain and keep healthy growth going in these guys, clearly. So I would say, even if you're in this boat and like you're not transplanting them, to someone else's house, but you don't quite know what to do with them yet. Say you're not ready to put them in the ground, or something needs to be done, but you don't know where its final place will be. Well, this is where um, it's always good to have these extra nursery pots on hand that you collect, especially some mid-sized ones like this that are a size larger than these sort of standard single ones. So what you're going to find here, I went ahead and put about 2/3 worth of potting soil in here just to like get it ready. And so what you're going to find, notice how many roots are here, and like watch this. You see that? You can tell I gave it a good watering, but this is just too. The roots are very compacted. Like they're very. We got a lot of roots here, to the point to where what you'll find is when you go in here and start pulling away, it becomes very dry, like to where when you squeeze out that outer part, you think that it's just soaked, but then when you start pulling away, you notice how all these like twisted and compacted roots were ready to expand. And go ahead and start writing your own metaphors for life here, because from the outside sometimes, even just pulling it out of the pot and squeezing those roots, you see all this water, you're like, well, it can't possibly be an issue of the roots not getting properly hydrated. Well, it actually is, because when you strip away the outside and you just come to the core, you probably can't tell on camera, but if you try this at home, you'll find this in a lot of, especially like if you go to a bigger garden center to where there's only but so many people that can attend closely to these mass plants that they have for sale. This right here is just very, very compact. Like, but anyone that knows anything about roots and assessing what healthy roots look like, these are white. So like these roots are good and healthy, but they're all wrapped, they're tangled up within one another. So like they're not, this very core part right here is sort of just a tangled mess. And the dirt that's immediately beneath it is just quite dry. But look at that. We stripped away all this other wet, soppy mess that these weren't healthy roots. Like these roots weren't doing anything for the core of the plant. And in fact, like when you look at the size of the thing I just took it out of, I mean, this is all that remains. You would think that, oh, this pot should have been plenty large. Well, it probably still would be. I could possibly repot it in there after having stripped away all that other stuff, but we are going to go ahead and give it a head start in life. So because I know it's going to end up in the ground next month, so we might as well go ahead and get it um, expanding. And so I'm just loosening up the roots here. And when you do this, feel free to pull out these sort of wilty, not so great looking pieces of foliage, because you don't need them. They're not adding to the whole in any meaningful way. And anything that is dead and wilty is honestly just an energy suck. It's not serving the whole. Get rid of it. The plant needs all the energy um, it can get on the new healthy growth. So we're just going to rip these roots up a little bit and let that stuff just kind of hang. And if you really want to look at it in terms of like the discomfort and sort of sometimes physical, but emotional and literal uprooting at times that has to occur within your own life in order to grow. And I mean, even when you talk to like fitness experts and like bodybuilders and like the actual biological processes that occur when you are building muscle and like how the tearing of the muscle is actually like what stimulates like the growth, like how it rebuilds itself and becomes stronger over time. But the process, like where you feel like your legs are on fire the next day after a really effective workout, it's sort of that same process. It's like that sort of the pain that you feel in the pursuit of growth is a very natural part of the process. And so it does sort of look traumatic, as you can see what we've done to this root ball. It's like most of what was there is gone, is stripped away. But what remains is healthy. We've got a solid foundation to build from. We've got nothing but potential and the optimism of even doing this, of coming here and like instead of looking at these purchases and going, oh well, I guess it didn't work out, and I'll just watch this fall to the wayside, and I did my best. Sometimes you just gotta actually have the confidence in the plant, but also in the process yourself to like remedy the situation. Like maybe it won't be as bad as you think, or as bad as you've built the thing up to be. And in my personal experience, as uncomfortable as it is to admit, I can really identify with that. Like I'll build something up to be just such a big deal, whether it's just like a phone call or like a seemingly simple task. But it doesn't seem simple because there's like an unknown involved, like whether it's like I've never done it before, or what if I don't like what I discover when I take it out of the pot? What if I discover like right away that it was that the plant is a loss or something? You realize how irrational it is when you just kind of dive in and do it because you think, oh wow, look at this. Like worst case scenario, I've just spent 10 minutes on something that isn't going to make it anyway. But really, in the process, you found that oh, the problem seemed pretty simple. It just needed my intervention. It needed a little bit of help, and it will take care of itself the rest of the way. Um, and just like that, we've got this guy in some fresh soil that isn't waterlogged on the outside and dry at the very core, because you think about yourself and what you do over a period of time when you're sort of avoiding the core issue of something, when you're sort of just like putting little band-aids on here and there, avoiding getting to the root of the situation, uh, literally and metaphorically, where sometimes the work is a bit more tedious, strenuous, long-term than simply pulling something out of the pot and stripping away what's sort of waterlogging it on the outside. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes you realize that you can just pull away the stuff that isn't serving the core anymore so that the core can actually have a chance to thrive the way it's clearly been wanting to. And so now we have this guy set in his fresh foundation, and I'll obviously do the same with the other ones, but just give it a light watering. And in no time, not only is this plant going to be perking up even more, we will have more new growth, most definitely. We already have one bloom that's just wanting to come into existence right here. And then what you can do is for these ones that are already spent and that aren't going to be doing anymore, go ahead and give your plant all the energy, like I said, that it can get on the stuff that hasn't come in yet, the new stuff with potential. Don't waste the precious energy as you've uprooted it and put it in its new home, or at least temporary home. You don't want it to be hanging on to things that are already gone. So this will now be in perfect condition. In fact, better than its nursery pot situation, even if it weren't sort of struggling, even if I hadn't found it wilty. Um, Doing this as this temporary hold before I go and plant them in the ground somewhere else in like a couple weeks is going to give it a really nice head start. So I hope that is giving you a little bit of a wisdom for when you go to the garden center, and especially when you go to the plant rehab section. You know, most nurseries will have um, plants that are marked down. So I imagine these guys will probably be in that section where I got them. If they're not already, they probably will be soon. Because, you know, a big nursery doesn't have time to go and do what I just did. Um, so what they have to do is they have to take guys like this and put them in the markdown section. And if you go in there with the basic knowledge that I've just given you, you can bring it right on home for like a marked down price. Do that thing where you have like a big tray or something and let those rehab plants sit after giving them a thorough watering. Let them sit in that water overnight. And then the next day, when you go to repot them, strip away all that excess dirt that you'll probably find and make sure you just have your core roots intact. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised in the spirit of Jupiter at how your optimism, how you seeing potential in something that had been pretty much left for discarding, will yield rewards for you indefinitely. So, until next time, I hope you guys take care of yourselves. Maybe go take a stroll in your local garden center, see if there's anything that needs rehabbing, and let the spirit of Jupiter be with you. Take care.